processed by their own gear.
You talking about Universal?
Yeah.
UAD? Yeah. I couldn't hear you for a second, but yeah, I've got one of those, and it's kind of annoying. I never use their plugins.
For reals? You have the satellite?
Yeah. No, I have the Apollo Twin.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And it's a great preamp. I mean, it sounds amazing, but I just don't use their plugins because I only use it for recording, and I don't know. I never have it with me when I'm
The
working.
problem with their plugins is they're so good, you want to use them a lot, but you run out of processing really fast because you have to buy the external processing.
Yeah.
What was the other thing I want to buy? Oh, and then the mic. I'm also looking at. I've got in my reverb feed alerts for either a SM7B, the Shure, a lot of podcasters use it. It's the black one.
Yeah.
Or RE20. But honestly, I shouldn't be spending any money. By the way, look at this cup. Look at how big it looks. I should pull it up like this for my first drink. Like make it look so huge. But it is huge. Anyway.
So here's why I was late getting on this morning. My students, I dropped a bomb at the very end of class. I referred to my It's Always Sunny spec script, and they had to know what the plot was.
What?
I did an It's Always Sunny spec script. I didn't write the whole script, but I outlined it. An episode.
Oh.
You didn't know this?
Wait, did they do a table reading like Michael Scar style?
No, it was just like at the end of class, and I was saying bye, and they're like, no, wait, you have to tell us what happens in the episode that you wrote.
Oh.
Except they called it fan fiction, and I didn't like that. I was like, no, it's not fan fiction. It's a spec script. It's a spec outline because I never wrote the script. I didn't write the dialogue. I felt like that I had a block.
Did we ever work on something like that? I thought we might have.
I think I did. It was back when I had back surgery a few years ago, and I was just spending a lot of time on opioids.
Oh, yeah.
Watching TV and...
No, I haven't taken it. I got some hydrocodone.
Yeah, hang on to that stuff, man.
Well, it helps my arms not feel so bad.
I bet.
What are we talking about today?
I just wanted to talk about St. Vincent for a minute.
Then you will do all the talking.
Well, yeah, but you have an impression of her, which would be interesting for me to hear, I think. And then if your impression were to change over the next couple of weeks, that would also be interesting. Okay. So here's my thing. I guess it goes way back to in the 90s, I liked girl bands. I wanted to have a band with a female singer with a low voice, like an alto. I thought it would be the perfect voice for a rock band. So that was kind of what I was going for. And it was aesthetic. It was all sound based. It wasn't because, I had attractions to these super awesome grunge girls. I mean, I did, right?
Grunge girl. That'd be a good
Yeah.
Grunge girl. A little on the nose, but it would be great.
Yeah. I mean, there was something about Courtney Love. Like, she had crazy eyes or something. I don't know.
Always.
But what was that band I liked? I saw this band. Letters to Cleo.
That's what it is.
Remember Ben Wyatt?
Yeah.
Yeah, he always wears the Letters to Cleo shirt. But only when he's depressed.
Well,
Which I don't know how to take that.
Didn't they play the Eagleton Pawnee concert?
Yeah, and they played like Bye Bye Little Sebastian, didn't they?
And then they did that at the end, everyone together.
Yeah, right. I don't remember where they played.
I think it's called 5,000 Candles in the Wind.
Bye Bye Little Sebastian. I'm gonna cut that out. All right, but they had what was their song? Kay Hanley was the singer, and I saw them at a little club in Winston-Salem, North Carolina called Ziggy's, and they had like a little mosh pit in the front. It couldn't have been more than 10 by 10 feet, man. so tiny. And then right behind the mosh pit was this platform that was like 2 feet up, and there was like a rail that you could kind of lean against and see right over the mosh pit. So I was right up against that rail. So I was like 10 feet from the stage, and I had a perfect unobstructed view. And she looked at me and smiled, and it was like the best $15 I ever spent.
Wow.
You know, as a 16-year-old or whatever, I was in love.
So
But seriously, it wasn't just.
This wasn't like 10 years ago when they were totally out of date either. This was when they were in their sort of heyday, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what was their big hit? It was Here and Now.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Here and Now. And then, do you remember the Breeders?
No.
They had the song Cannonball.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So let me do a side note story really quick. Like 2 years
Do it.
ago, I think I told you this. 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago now, there was a song that was his. There was a song where the only thing I remembered was the opening hook of the song. That's all I remembered. I didn't remember any of the words, anything else about the song or the band name. They had one hit in like 1998, and it was one of those songs that was like, it peaked probably like in the 30s on the mainstream rock chart. So no one knows who this band is. And I know this song existed. So I spent an entire summer like Googling and looking through Billboard top hits. So I'd be like Billboard top hits of July 7th to July 14th, 1998. And I'd look at all 50 songs, and I would get on Spotify and listen to every song of a band that I couldn't remember the song specifically to see if it was this song. I did that all summer, could not find the song. But that Cannonball song was, I remember one of the songs on the list that I'd forgotten about, and that I listened to, said, oh yeah, I remember this. Or I remembered all these songs by bands that you completely forget about. So then a whole year goes by. I forget that I even remembered this song. Then I remembered that was trying to remember this song. So I got back into it and totally found it. I found it. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, yes. And it starts out really specifically. It starts out with like 4 beeps from like a pager. Remember that pager? Beep, 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 beep kind of sound?
Yeah.
It started out with 4 pager beeps, and then the hook hit. I was Googling like rock song that starts with beeper, like rock song that starts with pager beep, nothing. I had to finally dig it up. It was like 48th on the top 50 in July of 1998. I found it.
What was it?
But now I forgot what it's called.
Exactly. I can never remember.
I forgot the name of it.
All right, we'll do this. Just Google 90s hit with beeps.
You know what, though? I think
No,
I
I'm
put it in a
kidding.
Spotify playlist. So
Okay, while you're doing that, I'm gonna play the beginning of Breeders
Do it.
Cannonball because I'm gonna show the video. I'm gonna share the screen because I want to show you what the drummer's doing. I was like, that guy's got a drum set, but he's not even playing the drums. He's playing the stand. And I thought that was brilliant. So do you remember Mazzy Star?
Yes.
Do you remember that band?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of the background here. So when I first become aware of St. Vincent, I kind of have all this in my mind, right? And she's got a sound. I'll say that like I've always been more interested in her whole, all right, I'm going to sound real snooty and academic here, but her project. Like, if you think of all of her work as a project, it's not just the music. It's a look. It's the way like she thinks about creativity and the way that she thinks about art and how you make statements. So there's an interview I made. By the way, I made you a playlist on YouTube. Of videos.
YouTube.
Yeah,
Oh,
you should
that's
watch them in
right.
order. And you don't have to watch all of them, right? You can just skim through them. But there's an interview where she says, at one point, she says that she's looking at it for like a Venn diagram where sexy overlaps with ridiculous. And I thought that was kind of brilliant. Like she's making satirical statements through these really outlandish visual images. So anyway, so I'm interested in all that, and I'm interested in her creativity. I'm interested in the fact that she grew up in Dallas, or Grapevine, right, near where we went to grad school, and she was associated with this band from the area. What's it called? You know the one I'm talking about, the big Polyphonic Spree.
Yeah.
And then
Everyone's
when I
been in
heard
that
her,
band.
when I heard her, I know, right? So, but then when I heard her playing the guitar, I was like, oh my gosh, she can really play. And so her musicality is all there, but she's not, she's not like Jimi Hendrix where she's standing. I'm sorry, I don't mean to. Let's think of someone else. Someone who just is a virtuoso guitarist and they're going to stand on stage and show off how good they are. She actually does that sometimes, but she can also use it or not use it depending on what's going to serve her artistic project. So anyway, that's just kind of my big picture, the way that I think about it. So I'm just kind of always interested in hearing what she has to say. And again, like not all of her songs are my favorite, but
Guess what? Sorry.
what?
I found the
Do it.
song, by the way.
Tell me what it was.
I like how I've been looking it up.
I know.
I actually forgot it again and had to go back and Google some fragments of the lyrics I remember. The name of the song is called Upside Down, which is such a generic title. When you Google it, 500 other songs called Upside Down come up. But the band is called Pound.
What? Do you mean Soundbound Pounds the Town?
Bizarre, because it says in the on Spotify, it attributes the writers as Pound and Daryl Hall and John Oates. So
you know what that means? Yeah, it means they stole it, right? And then they had to go back and give them credit.
What did they steal? This would be very interesting. I'm going to look into this. Anyway, sorry, that was a diatribe. I am completely unfamiliar with St. Vincent, except for she's got a signature model Ernie Ball guitars.
Yeah, I dug into that a little bit too. It sounds like a pretty good instrument. Everyone who's played it seems to really like it.
Ernie Balls are really great guitars.
Are they? Yeah, I wasn't familiar. I mean, it's out of my price range. It's like $2,500.
Or was it Ernie Ball or Music Man? Or are those the same thing? Now I can't remember. I feel like
they're the same thing.
When I get on this podcast, I forget everything.
Me too.
That's just
can I go back? Can I go back and correct something?
Go back.
This is from weeks ago. I said something in a podcast I need to correct. I was talking about the chromatic harmony in Yesterday by the Beatles, and I said it was a major 2 chord. It's a major 3 chord. It's like a 5 of 6, right? So I just wanted to correct that.
Okay, I thought you already corrected that. Or wait, was that just a text you sent to me?
I think it was just a text.
Okay. Now I'm mixing reality and this podcast in my mind.
Oh, one more thing. She's on Portlandia a couple of times, and she made a movie with Carrie Brownstein.
Oh, what movie?
It's called The Nowhere Inn, and it's not out yet, but I saw it at Sundance.
Is it good?
And I will post. It's one of my favorite movies that I've ever seen. So what they did, they started off making a concert documentary, and then they were going to put like comedy sketches in between the footage of the live concerts.
Bizarre.
Super bizarre. Like the whole thing is bizarre. And then they realized that wasn't working, so they scripted the entire thing from scratch. And it deals with like the artifice of celebrity and the artifice of documentary, like the idea that documentaries are supposed to be true and journalistic, and they just really skewer all that stuff. So it's really satirical, really funny. So I think when that comes out, watch it, because that'll give you more insight into her personality. But she's on Portlandia a couple of times.
I do like her skit in Portlandia where Fred Armisten's asking her about her gear, right? That's the one, right? Oh, is that a tube amp?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget where it goes, but I remember really liking it. Fred Armisen.
I think I sent that to you years ago because I was like, this is like when I used to come over to your apartment in Denton. That's wasn't that. There was something about that skit that reminded me of you. Maybe it was me asking you about all your gear.
That tube amp. I love Fred Armisen. He is really a bizarre person. Could you imagine, like, who was he married to? That girl that was in Mad Men, right? Didn't they
Yeah.
divorce?
Yeah.
How could you stay married to Fred Armisen? Can you imagine what real life is with him like? I think he's probably exactly in real life how he portrays himself in comedy. Like, he's probably a super bizarre person. That's my take on it.
Do you know how I picture Fred Armisen in his real life when he's not performing? Like his character from Parks and Rec, that Venezuelan general.
Oh my gosh. He does. He's been on so many things in those bit parts. It's like anytime they need someone who's funny and can do bad accents, they're like Fred Armisen. Like 30 Rock when he plays the Middle Eastern guy that gets called into. They wanted to do The Amazing Race, and
right, yeah,
Liz Lemon
he's the
thought he was
terrorist
a
down the
terrorist.
hall. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that was so good. I like how they dealt with that too, because as an audience, you could see, right? You could see that pitfall coming a mile away.
Yeah. I like that part where she's walking and there's like a sign that says, see something, say something. And then each sign she sees gets progressively more pointed towards what she's doing. So she
Is
finally,
your neighbor Middle Eastern?
yeah.
It doesn't say that.
Good.
Have you seen his stand-up special? I think it's on Netflix, or it used to be. He went to some drummers convention. I don't know if it was like, I don't know what it was, but then he did a stand-up. He did a stand-up set there, all about drums and drummers.
No, I saw something about that. I didn't watch it though. But it
was
looks
hard
good.
for me. It was really inside. I mean, all the jokes, like the crowd was loving it, but I was just a little bit on the outside of that world. So
It's amazing to me that someone like Fred Armisen can go to a drum convention and make a lot of inside jokes that drummers get. You know what I mean? Like, you really have to know that world in a way, It's just like if you go to a guitar convention and you joke about, like, some esoteric pedal that's back ordered, and they all go, ah, ha, 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 but there's no context because you're just a normal human who doesn't care about gear like most of the world.
yeah.
Or composers, or anything. You know what I mean? Could you imagine, like, Fred Armisen going to the MAIT for what did we call our, Monday composer thing? Music Now?
Music Now. Yeah.
Like, walking in and making a bunch of composer jokes, And then we laugh, and we're like, wow, he really knows what he's talking about.
Like he's as funny as Michael Colgrass.
And then he makes some joke about Barstow,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
5 of us doctoral
Oh,
students laugh in the back.
It would make me so happy to hear Fred Armisen tell a joke about Barstow. Did you ever see that Jimmy Fallon when he was on SNL, when he came back? He had left the cast and he came back as a guest host or host, I don't know, whatever. And he did that Beethoven sketch.
No.
It's so good
I feel
because
like
it's
today
so
I'm
inside.
literally just striking out on every single reference you brought up today. It's like, have you seen? Oh, no. We should call this.
Have you seen Ted Lasso?
No, we're not going to do Ted Lasso because I completely forgot we talked about that for like 20 minutes last time.
There's more. I mean, there's a lot there.
There is. Okay, say what you will about Ted Lasso, but here's what I love about it. A new revelation about it. Now that I've gone through it 3 times now, and I'm halfway through it. Now, some of that's circumstantial because I'm watching with people who haven't watched it. They don't have Apple Plus, so they come to my house and we watch it together. It is a really great show to watch with people that like comedy, and they haven't seen it, but you have. Like, you're ready for the jokes to come, and they're gonna laugh, and then that moment happens, and then you take joy in them laughing. You're like, and in a way, you feel responsible. You're like, you're enjoying this because I brought you into this world,
Yeah.
and this is good for me. I'm happy that you like this. But there's nothing worse than when you introduce something to someone and they literally don't laugh at all, and you're like just sitting there and you're like, oh, this is so awkward. Then you feel all apologetic, like, sorry I wasted your time with this so much. Sorry, what did Andy
Yeah.
Bernard say to Michael? Oh, sorry I annoyed you with my friendship, Michael. That's what you feel like. But
Yeah, I miss that because Megan and I used to watch the same shows all the time, and we just don't anymore. Like, there's no overlap in what we watch.
that's
It's weird.
That's an interesting topic for relationships. We could go into the relational aspect of shows because Nicole, my wife, when I'm gone, it never fails. As soon as I leave town, like a day later, I get a text. She's like, I'm just feeling kind of down. I said, why? I don't know. I said, well, what are you watching? Oh, a bunch of real crime shows about murder and stuff. I hate those shows. I hate them.
Yeah.
She loves them. She loves real murder podcasts, real murder documentaries on Netflix. So she doesn't watch them when I'm home because she knows that if I walk upstairs and, we get that little window to watch a show every night and she's watching that, I'll just leave. Like, I won't even stay in the same room and do something else. I just leave the room. So she doesn't watch those because, she wants to spend a little time with me. But when I'm gone, boy, she pulls those shows out fast and it gets dark. If I'm gone for like a few days, like by day 3 or 4, I was like, shut it off. You got to shut it off. You got to control this because I'm not coming back to you being all depressed because you're watching these real murder shows or whatever. I hate those shows.
Yeah, Megan used to watch a lot of Law and Order SVU, but now it's like mostly reality shows, and some of them I really like. I'm surprised. I mean, they're so trashy.
You mean like Great British Bake Off?
Well,
Just kidding. That's not trashy at all.
I like that show.
I do too.
The Brits are so nice. They're like not competitive. If Americans were doing that, they'd all be fighting each other and forming alliances and then betraying their partners. And
They're like, guess
but
what?
The Brits are like,
I replaced his sugar with salt. And then it's like some kind of like Survivor challenge, and the music gets all
Yeah.
intense instead of all whimsical.
and then someone would come out and be like, for this bake, like this is going to be a regular, whatever angel food cake, but here's the twist: you have to use crickets. You have to put crickets in the cake.
Yeah. Joe Rogan. They should have Joe Rogan host it.
I like pretty much anything that Joe Rogan does.
That was before Joe Rogan became like this libertarian, freedom-loving podcaster icon. It was like back when Joe Rogan was kind of a joke when he did Fear Factor. You know what I mean?
Hey,
Now
man,
Now he's bald and he's ripped and he's like, freedom,
yeah,
for these
is it a good
4-hour
idea?
podcast journeys,
Is it a good idea for us to talk about Joe Rogan in this medium? I feel like he's got people they're gonna shut us down.
Nah.
He
As
doesn't
long
care
as
about us.
as long as we're pro the Rogan, I'm pretty sure we'll probably get more viewers.
I saw a thing on Facebook. I'm trying to remember. This is gonna be one of those things where I can't remember the beginning or the ending. It was a list of red flags, like if someone uses these words, you should be careful. And one of them was Joe Rogan. Like if they say the word Joe Rogan, just be cautious.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. No, yeah. Anyway, back to your some reality show. Let's go back a degree.
Oh yeah, so the ones I like, here are the reality shows I like that Megan watches. Southern Charm. It's about wealthy people in Charleston and their social lives. It's just delightful. And then there's one called Below Deck about this super rich people's yacht. Let me back up. It's about a yacht that super rich people rent out. And then at the end of the episode, they'll give a tip based on like how good the service was. And sometimes the tip's like $50,000. I'm like, if the tip is $50,000, how much did it cost to rent this boat? And also, why aren't you helping to solve world hunger?
You mean the rich person or the people below deck?
Well, the rich person, because the people below deck, there's like a whole crew that has to split it, so they might get $1,000 or $2,000. Well, I don't know if it's 50,000, but it's like so much money.
Yeah.
It's an interesting show. It's just all these pretty people dating each other and drinking, and so in a sense it's boring. Here's what I hate about reality shows: when they go to commercial, they give a teaser, like here's what's coming next, and they play out a whole scene as the teaser. Then they go to commercial. Then they come back and they're like coming up, and they give another teaser. And then by the time it actually happens, you've already seen it like 4 or 5, 6 times. It's just, they don't have enough footage to have a whole TV show. They have like 6 minutes for a 22-minute episode. It's
like
not
that,
enough.
It's like that on 30 Rock when they parodied Survivor, right? With MILF Island. And,
MILF Island, yeah.
That actor, I forget the name of that actor. He's done a lot of stuff. Plays the host, and he's like, "Will Deborah beat Deborah? Find out 3 commercial breaks from now." You know, like it just keeps drawing it out, and they keep playing on that theme the whole time. That is probably one of my favorite 30 Rock episodes. It's literally, I think it's one of those episodes that you could say is, I think, almost a perfectly executed episode. For like what they sought out to do to parody it, it was perfect in all aspects. Fight me on it.
What else is happening in that episode?
That's where
Is that the Reaganing?
No, that's a later episode. I do love the Reaganing episode. Don't talk to me, Lemon. I'm Reaganing. This is the one where in the paper, Jack, she says, that guy can eat my poo. And it's in the newspaper. So Jack's trying to figure out who said it, even though it was Lemon that said it. And then Kenneth is trying to say that it's him. And Lemon's trying to put Kenneth up to taking the blame for it. And then Pete gets his arm stuck in a vending machine. That's his whole plot. Remember? And then
I don't remember
the vending
this.
machine falls on him at the end. And then that's the one where they're all in Jack's lobby, or the lobby to Jack's office. And I love this Tracy Jordan line. All it is like they're trying to go around the room and like see who really said the line. And then that skinny kid that's a lot in first season but kind of fades out. The skinny kid who's an actor. He says, or no, so one of them goes, "Well, it can't be me." And then Tracy Jordan steps in and goes, "That dude did it." And then pandemonium ensues. Anyway, it was a long thing to say that. But that episode has all these arcs that intertwine with the arc of that episode. Remember? And that's the one where Jack stutters. He's like, Mr. Stutter Cakes, Mrs. Stutterworth. He's like, he's like, the butter thing really opened up a lot of options for him when they were making fun of him. Mrs. Stutterworth, Stuttermilk Pancakes. Anyway.
Well, I can't. Here's my problem with memory. If I haven't seen it, and I'll binge watch 30 Rock, I'll binge watch it every few years. I'll watch is it 7 seasons? Right.
Yep.
I'll watch it all. And then 6 months later, I won't remember anything. So if I haven't binged it in the last 6 months, I don't remember that episode. I remember certain episodes, but
I think what I do is, I think with like a show, you've got all the episodes, but all of my favorite episodes somehow I've committed to memory. Like almost every aspect of that episode. So I've probably got like maybe 10 to 15 of each of the shows I love up here, like all the time, and then the other ones I vaguely remember, but I think what it is a lot of those shows, it's a lot of earlier seasons, because you watch those more, I've probably seen seasons 2 and 3 of The Office like 20 times. I've probably seen the whole series like 2 or 3 times. But because I love seasons 2 and 3 so much, and they've been out for so long, I've just gone through them so many times. And they're the best. Yeah. They're the best seasons.
So
same with the rest of
my
development.
12-year-old,
Anyway, go.
Yeah, Arrested Development's probably my top. My daughter Emmeline, who's 12, binges. She watches The Office maybe 6 hours a day.
That's like a season.
Not every day, but yeah. But she doesn't watch every episode, so she knows. It's funny because when she first started watching, we were like, "Okay, you can't watch this episode. This one's okay. This one's got more adult content. You can't watch it."
Yeah.
And she has taken that extremely seriously. And now she's 12, and I'm kind of like, it's okay. You can watch, you can watch any of them now. I'm okay with that. And she's like, nope. I'm only watching the ones that like you told me I could watch 3 years ago. So, but she knows which ones they are. And when it went off of Netflix, we bought it on iTunes because it was on sale for like $19 for the whole
Wow.
series. The only problem is you don't have any of the special features, the deleted scenes and stuff. But so she'll sit there and watch maybe like the same 4 or 5 episodes every day for a week. And I can't do it. And so on the one hand, if I could watch it over and over and over, it would stick with me. I just showed my class, my sound on screen class, Inception, because we were talking about noise and sound design and how it blurs the lines with score sometimes. And I love that movie, but I realized I've only seen it one time. Like when it first came out, I saw it in the theater. I think I saw it with you and Paul and Vinny maybe, and maybe Nicole. I don't remember, but I haven't seen it since then. That's 10 years or more. No, maybe 10 years. Anyway, I showed it to my class, and I was sitting there watching it, and I realized I haven't seen it in 10 years, and it was brilliant. But there were lots of scenes that I'd completely forgotten.
I did that once
yeah.
in my undergrad. We used to do like movie nights in our like little, we got every university music building has like a recital hall. It's a little bit smaller, more intimate. A lot of individual recitals are there. Well, I was the production director, so I would set up my band's PA system in there with the big old subwoofers, and we'd set up a screen with a projector and watch movies in there for free, just for fun. And I remember the first one we showed was This Is Spinal Tap. And I was like, I love this movie. I've seen it several times. I did not realize or remember how many times they say the F word in it. It's like hundreds of times. It's like every other word they're saying the F word. And like, because I put it on, I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have chose this movie. Even though pretty much everyone's there has already seen it, and they're mostly college people, But I still felt this weird responsibility when I forgot how much they said it. Then we watched Lord of the Rings, which was also awesome. But 3 hours sitting in a recital seat, was a long time.
Do you think Lord of the Rings would be better if there were 300 F words in it?
Way worse. No, I think it'd be way worse.
I think it would be awesome but what if it was just Gimli? I think Gimli could pull it off.
Yeah, he could. Well, I mean, at that point, if you add that, then you basically got Game of Thrones.
Smaug. I'd love to hear Smaug. How do you say it? Benjamin Cumbersnatch would be saying the F word a bunch.
What about does the Eye ever say anything in that show?
No, I don't think so.
It just
no, it does. It kind of does. Right?
Like when they grab one of them little guys grabs the orb thing and it talks to him.
Yeah.
That would be fun to hear an F word there. We could talk about Coming to America 2. Coming to America.
It makes it difficult to distinguish between the two because they're phonetically exactly the same.
Yes. And
it's Coming to America and Coming to
America. When was the
America.
last time you saw the original Coming to America? And what are your impressions of that?
So it's been at least 20 years.
Really?
It's got to be. Yeah. I can't imagine like watching it in the last 20 years. So I'll tell you what I remember from the first one. I only remember McDowell's.
Yep.
And Samuel L. Jackson.
Yep.
And the Royal Bathers.
Who can forget that scene?
Yeah, I used to always replay that scene like right as I was falling asleep. No, that's a Michael Scott reference. Remember?
Oh yeah, yeah. I picture having sex with you guys all the time before I go to bed. When he's like,
Is that
right
what
when they're playing the "Who Would You Do?"
Yeah, he goes, "Oh yeah, I played this game right before."
Well, I love that he says it's the name of the game is "Who Would You Do," which sounds fun and like cheeky and kind of dumb. And then he goes, "I would definitely have sex with." And as soon as you say it like that, it just sounds like awful.
It's
and
awful.
Like, oh
But yeah, so that's kind of all I remember. I remember. Oh no, what about Trading Spaces? Wasn't there a reference to Trading Spaces in Coming to America?
I yes, it was when he had all the money and he gave it to the bums, and the bums were those guys.
That's right.
Mortimer, we're back in it or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I appreciate it. All right, so now I guess that's all I remember. Did you want to?
Oh, well, I was just gonna say, no. So Coming to America is one of my favorite movies. Growing up, my sister and I watched it all the time. Somehow, even though there's so many bad words, I was not sheltered as a kid. The problem is we grew up having HBO, and a lot of these shows. I think HBO. The rule was it couldn't be rated R till after 8 p.m. or maybe 7 p.m. So they wouldn't show Coming to America during the day very much, but they would in the evenings. And so, for some reason, my sister and I just love this movie. We still do. I think it's probably been like 5 years since I've seen it, but I basically had the whole movie memorized. So even just watching it was just me going through scene by scene and like saying the lines with it and knowing what was going to happen. But we watched Coming to America too because my sister visited last week, and so we had been wanting to watch that together, and it worked out great that it just came out, and I was really not impressed with it, and I think maybe what we should do is I want a little more time to think about it, but just the difference between comedy now
Yeah.
and where comedy is in movies, and the way that we think about humor now compared to the 80s is a really interesting topic that I don't have a lot of thoughts formed, and you'll definitely want to have some thoughts on it before we talk about it. But it could be an interesting topic.
I think that is an interesting topic. I'll say this. I know what you mean when you say you didn't like it, and I probably agree with you. But I think that my expectation was a lot lower. I think it sort of hit right what I expected.
Well, that's the
sort of
problem,
trades on
isn't it?
nostalgia and
What was the first movie that came out recently? I feel like there's a string of these movies that like you wonder why they got made, because nostalgia in the last 5 years or 6 years has gotten real big. Like, nostalgia is a product now. They're selling nostalgia to our generation. You know, not the boomers, because that's too far back. You know what I mean? Like, no one's making commercials parodying Ovaltine. I mean, they actually did that when we were kids with that Christmas Story. You know what I mean? Drink your Ovaltine.
Yeah.
That was a reference for baby boomers to when they were kids. And so now our generation's so nostalgic. And we're getting to that age now where nostalgia, the stuff from that generation culturally is coming back. You know? And like
I don't hate it. I mean, I get the problems with it, but I kind of like nostalgia. I'd pay $10 to go see Coming to America in the movies, even though I know it would never be as good as the first one. I just think it's a different movie. Listen to Eddie Murphy. I mean, Eddie Murphy's like a family guy who never leaves the house now in real life. You know, that's got to come through. His movies just aren't going to be as funny as they used to be.
But that's the thing. Even his character in the first one, he was a good guy. You know what I mean? He still was a good guy, Akeem, in the first one. Arsenio Hall was like kind of the dirtbag friend. You know what I mean? Who was like questionable, like morally, but Akeem was sort of the pure one. You know. Anyway.
Yeah, sure.
I think you're right.
Do you think that?
Yeah, go.
Well, I was going to say Arsenio, was huge, for like a decade after that movie came out. Right? He had his own show. It was like one of the biggest late night shows. He was everywhere, but then he kind of disappeared. I haven't heard from him in 20 years. But he was. I think he was maybe the best part of this Coming to America too.
He was good.
And I wonder if it's gonna. Yeah, I just wonder if he's gonna get more opportunities now. If it's gonna be like a John Travolta, Pulp Fiction situation.
I love Arsenio Hall. It's so funny. I'm this like guy who was raised in this tiny town in eastern Washington, but I grew up watching Arsenio in living color.
Yeah.
And in living color was so freaking funny. And yeah, and those are things. It's funny growing up because you don't really, at least I didn't realize that those were like, I didn't realize there was a race component. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought the guys on In Living Color were super funny, like their skits were really funny. And Coming to
Yeah,
America,
right.
of course, Eddie Murphy is hilarious. You see him different now as you're older, but they still are hilarious. They just knew what they were doing comedy wise. I don't know. I'll always remember this too. One of my favorite Living Color moments was when Jim Carrey. Remember, he sort of got his start there.
Sure.
Jim Carrey did a rap of Vanilla Ice, like a parody of Vanilla Ice. It was I vaguely remember that.
I remember that, but I don't remember like what the joke was because what did he do? He did something really outrageous. That was the thing about Jim Carrey. I'll just say I didn't like Jim Carrey at all on In Living Color. I loved In Living Color, but I liked Jamie Foxx. I liked the Wayans.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, but whenever Jim Carrey came on the screen, I was just like, he's too much. He's just too much for me. I think
still
he's
feel
mellowed
that
out
way?
a little bit. No, I don't. I mean, I really appreciate his skill set and his talents, but he was able to diversify a little bit and disperse some of that energy through dramatic roles, which are great. Well, I'll say that Dumb and Dumber, where it's not a dramatic role. It's just him being ridiculous, is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I think he's perfect in that role.
Mm-hmm.
But he's counterbalanced by Jeff Daniels, who is a completely different kind of actor. So I think it worked in that case. And then obviously like Truman Show, and I mean everything I've seen Jim Carrey, and I'm like, yeah, he's perfect for this. But I didn't like Fire Marshal Bill and stuff.
He was over the top. That was his thing. To this day, I still love Ace Ventura. It is watching it as an adult is a different experience.
You're right. I love Ace Ventura.
But I still love Ace Ventura. Back to the nostalgia thing. I also love the nostalgia thing to a certain point. I love it when it's creatively employed and it seems sincere. I really think the nostalgia thing started with Michael Bay doing the first Transformer movie, 11 years ago. I think that was the start of it.
Never saw it.
Yeah, right. Really? The
Yeah,
first Transformer. It was so good.
Why would I watch that?
Because it was good. There was big robots that look real. Why wouldn't you want to watch it? The next best thing was Robot Jocks from the early 90s. You remember that?
It doesn't seem interesting. All right.
I think it started there.
What?
I think that's what brought it back was like modernizing the nostalgia. Right. And then people got in on that. And then Jimmy Fallon was a big part of that too. He did a lot of nostalgic kind of skits and stuff. Then it just blew up.
How old is he? Is he our age? He must be, right?
He's a little older. Well, he might be your age. Might be a few older than you. Years older.
Screw you, buddy.
But
can that be one of the?
There are really there are really good cases of nostalgia out there. I think what it is like, when's the point where it's going to end? You know what I mean? Like, how much longer are we going to endure people ripping things off from the 80s? I mean, and now the 90s are making more of a comeback.
When it finally does end, that's bad for us because that means we've got nothing to look forward to, and it's just sitting around waiting to die, just like the boomers.
That's true, man. That's true. And except for our generation doesn't wield the same power as the boomers, so we'll just be kind of like these sad sack people sitting around wondering what it was.
Well, we will though. We will by when all the boomers are dead, then we're up next. But we're just a bunch of slackers. Are you Gen X? Do you consider yourself?
No.
Oh, see, I'm thinking in a Gen X perspective.
I refuse the Gen X title.
But I'm on the. I embrace it. I'm on the tail end of it.
That's why we're different.
What year were you born?
80.
77 for me. So just 3 years, but that's a big difference.
Well, here's the thing, dude. We are, what's the word? There's a word for like this 5-year gap between Gen X and millennials. And you're on the front edge of it. They say it starts in 77. I think it ends in like 82 or 83. People born in this little span are not like millennials and not like Gen X.
Yeah.
I think it's because we were the technology gap. You know, we were the last generation to grow up remembering what it was like to grow up without the internet, and it was introduced while we were coming of age. So
right.
I didn't play, I wasn't on the internet when I was 10 or 9 or 8 like the younger kids were, right? And I wasn't an adult when it came out like Gen X was. It was like brought into us when we were coming of age and having things be formed. So we've got this childhood where we remember riding around on bikes and not being tied to screens except for Nintendo. But because you couldn't save things on Nintendo, you really kind of got bored after a while. You know, if there was a level that took you 30 minutes to get to and you couldn't pass and you died, you'd have to start over and play 30 minutes again. You'd be like, I'm just going to go out and play, you know?
Right. That's a good point. It does seem to have to do a lot with our relationship with technology. And I have this theory that when you come along as a technology is emerging, like we did with computers, right? Did you have computers in your elementary school? Like we had those Apple IIe's that they gave out to schools for free. And I remember in second grade, they taught us how to write some code in BASIC. Just like, no pun intended, but really basic stuff. But just you sort of you get familiar with the idea of code and how a program gets executed and how a computer thinks. And then as other technologies come along, like HTML with websites, or like in our case when it comes to audio, sound design or processing, we are thinking a little bit more about what's going on under the hood. But if you think about technology that was fully established when you were already born, like cars, I feel like my parents and grandparents know a lot more about what's going on under the hood of a car. And I think it's because maybe they were coming along as those technologies were emerging. And so they had a different perspective on how it worked, like behind the scenes, how the technology works, right? Now, my kids come along and they just know that they can get apps from the App Store, but they have no idea. It's kind of like me watching TV when I was a kid. I never gave it a second thought how a TV show got made or how it was broadcast or how the antenna up on top of my house was receiving the waves. But I think when it comes to computers, I have that perspective. I'm thinking about what's happening. I'm thinking about nuts and bolts, what's happening behind the scenes.
That is an interesting thought to see how what technology you're coming up with, how it affects you. Side note, I also did not understand how TV shows worked as a kid. You know what I pictured? I still have this distinct memory in my mind of thinking this. Of Conan the Destroyer, right, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. I remember thinking, it's a commercial, and he just got done with the fight scene. So in my mind, I pictured during the commercial, they stopped the fight scene, he put the sword down, and he went and like laid down and like took a nap. Like still wearing all of his outfit. And they're like, okay, the commercial break's almost over. Let's get back into our place on the horse. And then they got on the horse, and then I pictured them. In my mind, I knew it wasn't real, but it was being filmed in real time every time it was shown. That was how my brain worked, like a musical or like a theater production. And then during commercials, they could go and take a break and drink some coffee. And then they get back on the horse and film some more and film another scene and then another commercial break. That was what I really thought TV shows were growing up. I had no idea.
That's funny. It reminds me of 24, which we used to watch, right? I think we watched season 8 together when it first came out. But in 24, everyone's always joking, like, what's Jack Bauer doing during commercials?
Yeah.
And I remember one of the writers joked that they wanted to go to commercial with him going into a restroom and then come out of commercial with him coming out the same door, kind of as a nod to this is when he goes to the bathroom, because you
never see him go.
No,
you never
he
see him
holds
go.
it. Look, hey, when you're saving America, you can't, you got to prioritize your time.
I think that's an interesting point though about technology, because like we had those Apple II GSs. I remember in 5th grade, one of my teachers who was teaching us about computers, he said, there's this thing called the internet where computers can actually talk to each other. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like you could send something from this computer and it'll go onto this other computer. And I was like, what?
War games.
Completely foreign. Like, I cannot, no, that's impossible. Because I'm playing Oregon Trail right here on this little computer. How can it possibly go out somewhere else? And then, no joke, by 7th grade, we had email. Like, our little high school had all these computers, these Macs. Like you said, there was an incentive program. We had a computer lab, and we all had like a school email, an Oakdale Junior High, my name at oakdale.net or something, email address. And we could email people. In 2 years, it went from being like, I cannot believe that computers are talking to each other, to like actually having the internet. And I remember when we first got the internet, man. Like, I remember being on a computer being like, there was no Google. There was no way to search. You just had to like try Metallica.com and see
There
if
was
something
Alta Vista. Alta Vista, remember that search engine?
Yeah. I was looking you up on Alta Vista. First of all, why is everyone using Alta Vista in this town? Ben Wyatt,
there's a
Ben
town,
Wyatt nod.
There's a town near where I live called Alta Vista, Virginia. And I always make the joke, like when I'm going through there, I like to post on Facebook, like, here's where I am. Why is everyone in this town still using Alta Vista?
That's funny.
Hey, I want to ask you something.
All right.
Because we're coming up on, I got a meeting in just a minute. But as we were talking, I had this idea. What if we have recurring segments that, where we say, hey, now it's the time when we talk about what we're wearing. First of all, like, just to remind our listeners, because if you are still listening, you may be interested in knowing that we have a YouTube channel, and you should go look us up on YouTube, and you can see us talking, which is, our facial expressions are half the story.
I'd venture to say all the story. Just kidding.
Most of it. So here's I've got a what are we wearing segment.
All right.
And then also, like, we've got others, like, what are you watching? What are you listening to? Like, we could just sort of, those could be stock. We're going to talk about those for a few minutes every episode.
I like that.
We kind of did that. But you want to talk about your shirt? Tell me about your shirt.
So today, I am sporting a shirt of a recording studio I used to work at in Denton, Texas, run by Eric Herbst, called The Panhandle House Recording Studio, Denton, Texas. I worked there for about a year and a half. I was his assistant and learned a ton about recording. And Eric is flippin' awesome guy. He's had some pretty good success. It's hard having a recording studio that's not in Nashville or LA or, you know what I mean? It's in Denton.
Mm-hmm.
But he recorded all the early Snarky Puppy stuff because they're a UNT band. So all the way up to, I think he recorded all their albums up to the one before the one they won the Grammy for. So all their first few albums. He's recorded Eli Young Band, all their early stuff. They're like a country band. Who else has he recorded there? He's had guests come in and do like sessions and stuff, and like he does a lot of Texas country stuff because he's in the heart of Texas, and Oklahoma. But yeah,
I love that Texas swing sound especially.
But that's my shirt of the day. I worked there. I got this shirt for free, and had it for like 4 years now. One of my favorite shirts. What about you?
All right, so this I'm wearing. It says I would prefer not to, just in big block letters. and it's a quote from, I think it's attributed to my favorite philosopher, Slavoj Žižek, the Slovenian composer, not composer, philosopher. And I just think it's funny. He cracks me up. I always wear this when I have faculty meeting, or like I've got a committee meeting this afternoon that I have to go to. So I like to wear this because I would prefer not to.
There was a shirt that my sister bought me in high school that was just blue, and it said in smaller letters, "Hard work never killed anyone, but why try?" And I wore that to any time I had a big test in college. So anytime I'd walk into the test, they'd hand me the test, and I'd got that on my shirt. You know what I mean? I said, "Here we go." You know.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to that shirt because I love that shirt. So
Hey, this is weird because I did my master's at BYU, and they had a testing center on campus. Did any of your colleges have a testing center?
no.
So this was kind of it made me angry because in every other college I went to, you would have to take one class period to give a test, right? And so in a semester, if you had 3 tests or 4 tests, that was 3 or 4 classes that you wouldn't have to learn anything because you were taking the test. But at BYU, they were like, nope, you're going to take all your tests outside of class.
Oh,
And they had a testing center, and the professor would send the tests, and there'd be some student worker working at the desk, and you would tell them what class you're in, and they would give you a packet, and you would take it into this big room full of desks, and it was quiet, and you had to sit there and take your test and then bring it back out to the proctor, and that's how
terrible.
you did it. It was kind of
I
terrible.
mean, it's efficient. You learn more. You get more, classes where you learn, but it's not
all about
fun.
efficiency there.
All right, last 2 more segments because I like this idea. What are you listening to right now?
So I'm listening to a lot of Beck. I'm listening to Morning Phase, but also Hyper. What's the last album
Hyperspace.
called? Hyperspace. I keep wanting to call it Hyper Prism for some reason. Hyperspace, which I like. It's a really different feel. I also like the lo-fi stuff that he did in the 90s. Yeah. And I'm trying to listen to, there's St. Vincent's got a new album coming out that I'm kind of waiting for. Her new single is really good, and I've been listening to a lot of her concert videos on YouTube.
I have been listening to Beck also. Still obsessed with Colors, the album. I feel like this is what's funny is I feel like right now there's not a lot of albums that I have gotten into, and I almost want to savor it when I am. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to let go until I'm totally done with it. So Morning Phase
Right.
and Colors have been my top 2 listens. But there's an artist out of the UK I really like. Her name's Laura. I cannot say this name. Mvula. It's literally Mvula. It's how you spell her last name. I don't even know how to say it.
Oh, I don't know.
She's got an album called Sing to the Moon that came out in 2013. That is hands down one of the best produced albums I've ever heard. The production it's actually a lot like Beck. It's very interesting. It's very orchestral, very colorful. Her singing is great. Her songwriting is great. We'll link it in the extras, so if you want to listen to it. But I re-listened to that because she's got an album coming out, and the first 2 cuts I've heard on it are extremely 80s inspired. I'm kind of annoyed because I'm like, don't jump on that bandwagon. Like, you had such an interesting sound. Why are you changing it? But anyway, I've been getting back into her too, for that. Okay, I gotta go. We'll have
Yeah.
to skip the last segment, but
Okay, we'll talk about it later.
kids are melting down, so I gotta
Okay,
get back.
man. That's our cue.
All right,
All
man.
right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.